and welcome. As insecurity heightened across the land, leaders in the South were engaged in a war of words over who is responsible for the continuing attacks in Rivers State, to be precise. And in spite of the uncertainty that pervades the land, echoes of 2023 are still sounding, and some party chieftains have warned that a new party will be created if the All Progressives Congress denies its national leader, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, the presidential ticket in 2023. But in what appeared a ray of hope for the country, President Muhammadu Buhari departed Nigeria for Paris on Sunday to attend the Africa Finance Summit. And amid this, during the week, he wrote the Senate seeking approval for a fresh $6.1 billion loan. The gains or losses from this fresh request will be our focus today on the program. Plus, INEC raises the alarm over frequent attacks on its offices in the southeast, as IGP launches Operation Restore Hope. Welcome to Issues with Judy. Of course, you know no one says it like Babajide Kolade Otitoju. I am Bukola Samuel Remimo. Thank you for staying tuned. Yes, it's another weekend for sound analysis, and we're glad you could join us. Welcome, Babajide.
Thank you.
So our work is cut out for us today. We should begin to ask questions about the $6.1 billion loan request. And I'm curious, Biko, because not too long ago, the DG of the Nigeria Customs Service had said that Nigeria was making more money from non-oil revenue, and then the finance bill that was passed into law not too long ago as well. So these sources are supposed to have shored up revenue for the federal government. So why do you think this $6.1 billion loan request, in the light of the extra revenue, is justified?
I don't know how to describe what's going on. I find it difficult to say it's justified, but I can see clearly that the government is in a bind. But it is not too late for the government to change its style. I do not see any justification for increasing your budget, the size of your budget, year on year. A budget is a statement of intent, what you want to do in the oncoming year. But if you are going through all kinds of problems in terms of generating revenue, why are you intent on increasing the size of your budget? You shouldn't be doing that. I don't know any economy where year on year there's a determination to increase the size of the budget. All the projection that they've done that necessitated the increase in the size of the budget against last year are all lies. Where is the revenue going to come from? You're talking about FRS. I think we should ask Namu, the boss of FRS, how much taxes he has been able to show up for our country. Companies are doing badly, so you expect them to pay much more than they've paid the previous year. That's not good.
It's not possible.
Customs, another big revenue earner, has had these problems because look at the exchange rate volatility, the depreciating economy and all that will not allow customs to make as much money as it would want to make. So in spite of all that, you still went on to increase the size of the budget. We want to every year say, okay, the budget was 7 trillion last year, we are moving to 8 trillion next year, and then moving to 10 trillion. When you do not have the revenue base to support such ambitious budget figures, this is the crux of the matter. And how much longer can we continue to ask for loan from creditors? It will get to a point that we no longer, they will not even want to entertain such requests from us. We will get to that time. But in my view, if the CBN governor, because I remember that the CBN governor complained about this obsession for foreign loans, and the fact that the obsession for foreign loans is draining resources. I know that people like Biswak Rewani, who are on the President's Economic Advisory Team, have also said that this obsession for loans, foreign loans, are not helpful. So who are the people advising the president to keep going for loans, this and that, at all times? Who are the people? If you also look at the budget every year, look at the headlines of our budget every year. It's the same items that you see there. Yeah.
Capital expenditure.
It's the same item.
Getting more money.
Buying more computers, buying cars. Corporate entities don't buy cars every year. Maybe 3 years after they bought maybe a 4x4, they buy another one. On our own part, we buy kitchen utensils every year, we buy computers, and a lot of these people do not even know how to switch on the computers. One big fellow in the public service sees the use of a computer as a form of status symbol. He wants them to put a computer in front of him, and he will ask, where do you switch on this? I mean, it will seem funny, but it's painful. These are things that bother me. How much longer? Look,
how do you judge these loopholes? And what questions should we be asking the Minister of Finance at this point?
I don't know what goes through her mind, but I doubt if she can be excited about the fact that we are taking loans, except if she does not know her job. I doubt if she will be excited about this fact. It is perplexing to me that the executive simply writes to the Senate, and Senate President Ahmad Lawan, who is more concerned about shooting down restructuring, will simply
acquiesce.
How much debate went into it, we don't know. We should be in the region of maybe $48 billion now as our debt stock, whereas when this administration took over, it was in the region of 15 billion. Shouldn't that bother anyone? That should bother us. We keep hearing that, oh, they are going to use this for infrastructure, this and that. Can even some of those infrastructure repay those loans? Because the Chinese, for example, they want guarantees. If you are unable to pay, they will take over that infrastructure. And when they take it over, the first thing they want to do is to increase tariff. Our people will ultimately pay for what we refuse to do today in the future. So I cannot support simply. Now, let me ask you a question. If we could go this far amidst debt servicing that is taking a heavy toll on our country, what are we going to do in 2022?
That means you continue to service debt in perpetuity.
No, you continue to ask for more loans. I mean, if you are asking for $6.8 billion, I mean $6.1 billion now. Next year, what are you going to do? Because the revenue profile will not have improved. Because all the signs that it will not improve are there. Look at, we have silently devalued the Naira. I'm sure you are aware of that. You go to the CBN website, PIN 94 as their so-called official rate has been removed, and it's now 411. After a few days or a few weeks, you see that the value of the Naira will have depreciated. It will now be in the region of 500 to $1 or more than 500. Because that this has happened in the past. We usually don't let the world know that we are devaluing, but by the time when you go to the CBN website and you see there that they have removed what used to be the official rate and replaced it in 411 naira to a dollar, that is devaluation, official devaluation, silently done.
So what options are open to the opposition in the National Assembly to critically look at this loan request before approving it, which is what everybody expects because of the style of the Senate president, particularly because of the details, the clauses in this loan request that are not transparent?
See, they should just keep asking questions, and they should be bipartisan in handling these matters, whether you are APC or you are PDP. Is the future of our country that we are talking about. Do your best, ask the pertinent questions, ask the right questions. How much longer can we do this? Is this sustainable? Why did Obasanjo have to go that whole length for us to get debt forgiveness? President Buhari is talking about debt forgiveness again. I read it in the papers. Debt forgiveness, and once you get debt forgiveness, we start borrowing like a sailor out of a ship, drunk. Start taking loans here and there. We've got to change our attitude, and a lot of these loans are going to go for recurrent expenditure. That's not what benefits majority of our people. Recurrent benefits maybe maximum 2 million Nigerians. So those are civil and public
civil service.
Capital benefits the greater majority of our people. But I can tell you that a lot of this will not go into
capital expenditure.
Yes.
Okay, we could go on and on, but let's go to our next topic. INEC is raising an alarm about the continuous attacks on its offices in the southeast. First, it was police stations. Now, it's INEC offices. Obajide, what do you see in that style of attacks? Is it to create, let me preempt you now, create a state of anarchy such that elections will not be conducted in 2023?
I think part of the goal of the separatists and people trying to make the southeast impossible to govern is to set ablaze government institutions, government buildings that they can set their eyes on, whether they are police station or INEC offices. Between 2019 and now, 22 INEC offices have been set ablaze. I've never seen this kind of thing. Even in some of the worst countries of the world, people don't set ablaze offices of the electoral habitat the way we are doing currently in our country. And it's such an expensive thing to do. I mean, in terms of the repercussion, the rebuilding of those INEC offices, the replacement of materials destroyed, is so expensive that I can tell you today that INEC has not rebuilt a single one of those buildings that have been set ablaze. If they are not set ablaze, then mysterious fire will consume them, destroy all their
electional equipment.
Yes. You look at the card that it cost 167,063 naira.
For one?
Yes. For one card reader, that's how much it costs. Then the memory card itself costs 6,000. Now, when they set ablaze the INEC office in, I think, Ondo, more than 5,000 memory card, card readers were destroyed. Everywhere they've set ablaze INEC facility, card readers have been burnt, people's PVCs have been destroyed, even election cubicles, like the ones that INEC installs on election day where you can vote, they get destroyed. Now INEC is broke. It has not got the funds to rebuild those 22. It was 21 until that of Enugu happened just a few days back, and it's an ongoing thing. So the question you ask is, when will this end?
Where will
INEC find the billions to rebuild all of these offices that they are setting ablaze. I can tell you that it is because since 2019, when this madness began, we've not punished anyone. There's an absence of investigation, an absence of prosecution. So people think that they can get away with anything. If we had made an example of a few of these political thugs who are setting ablaze INEC buildings, maybe those who had such intentions would have pulled back a little bit. But by not punishing anyone, but by the fact that people don't see an attempt to even put an end to the nonsense, then it's going around the country, in the south, in the west, in the north. There's no part of Nigeria where INEC offices have not been burnt, including Kano. So it's going around almost every week now. We read this report. So you now ask yourself, when will this stop? What are we going to do? The INEC chairman had a meeting with security operatives, security leaders, on what can be done. We are waiting to see what steps they come up with to nip all this in the bud. INEC has said it will affect its preparation for future elections. We have off-season elections all the time in our country. If INEC is not, we always accuse INEC of not being prepared for elections. We see that on election day that clearly these guys.
Is that some of the reasons?
Now, with their offices being burnt, with the rapidity at which they are burning those offices, you want to say that even the 2023 election is in danger in many parts of our country. In some places, they burnt more than 3 or 5 INEC offices in one state. You know, states like Akwa Ibom, these 3, Abia 3, Akwa Ibom, I think 5. Why? What's going on? What's going on?
I wish I could go on and on. I wish the characters, these separatists, using the word of Babajide, would be unveiled. I also wish that a Security Council meeting would be convened and they feel the urgency of the situation. That's the much we can take this evening on the program Issues with Jide. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this program by hitting the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. It's at TVC News Nigeria. Of course, you can also follow us for updates on Issues with Jide on all our social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TVC News NG. Thank you for watching. Join us again same time next week. I am Bukola Samuel Welimo, and it's bye for now. Also from BKO.
Thank you so much for doing this with me again. We hope to see you next week.
Next week. Bye for now.